Call order, County City Council, please stand for pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor Candace?
Here.
Councilmember Gladwell?
Here.
Councilmember Mino? Councilmember Wallner?
Present.
Councilmember Karki?
Here.
Councilmember Flowey?
Here.
Councilmember Lalonde?
For approval of agenda.
I'd like to remove 9.5 from the consent agenda, please. Make it 8.12.
Make it one.
8.12.
Okay, with that, now approval of agenda. Motion for changing of the agenda.
I'll move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second, Mr. Walder. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Public comment. In 3 minutes, we have public comment. Okay. Here's public comment. 6.1, DDA expansion, District Number 2, and amended and restated development plan and TIF financing plan for District Number 1, District Number 2. Madam Secretary.
Attached is a copy of the DDA district expansion map for District 1 and District 2 and a copy of the amended and restated plan. Recommendation: hold a public hearing tonight per state statute. Approve the first reading and set a second reading and public hearing for the April 9th, 2020 regular meeting.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Next, close the public hearing. Okay. Council?
I'll move that we approve the first reading of the, DDA expansion and set a public hearing for action on April 9th, 2020.
Level. Second.
Second.
Councilman Law. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Six point two, MNRTF and RP grant, Jackson Mine Park Playground Project. Secretary, background?
The City of Negaunee is making an application for grant assistance in the amount of $125,735.92 for the construction of a barrier-free community playground space in Jackson Mine Park. Matching funds are required for this grant in the amount of $41,911.98, which would consist of $31,911.98 in city forced labor and in-kind materials, and $10,000 from Negaunee Lions Community Enrichment Fund. Materials for this project will need to be budgeted in the 2021 budget. Labor would be straight time work. Recommendation: hold a public hearing. Approve a request in the amount of $125,735.92 to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for a trust fund grant or a recreation passport grant for the development of a barrier-free community playground space in Jackson Mine Park, and also to approve a resolution committing the city to a $31,911.98 forced labor and in-kind materials contribution.
Okay, let's open the public hearing.
Hello. Sorry I didn't get up during public comment, but my name is Josh Paquette. I'm with GEI Consultants. I helped the Derek, Duchesne, and together this grant application so far. So I just wanted to offer up any questions that you guys might have. I also have some materials here in the event you want additional information.
Kind of material, okay.
I have a set of drawings. So this is just a little schematic look at the park as well as the cost breakdown associated with the park. The playground, I should say. Oh, sorry. Yeah, and, you might already have some of these, but so as a background, the overall intent of the playground is to connect Tobin to the pavilion that's set to be completed this summer. There will be ADA access from the existing parking as well as from the ADA bathrooms that will be exhibited at the pavilion. And the playground is situated so that it has a ton of visibility from Tobin as well as from inside of the pavilion site, so it'll be highly visible. And then the idea would be to play off of the history and the heritage of this area and the mining, bring that in with some opportunity to teach about our history inside of the playground, as well as having some of the elements match some of the elements of the old mining in the area. Jackson Mine Park, like having a mine cart for the kids to sit in and rock back and forth, and maybe having mine pellets in this tilting object that can be on different levels so kids can manipulate it and play with different parts. Informative panels that can teach the users of Jackson Mine Park and the history that it has to offer. Any questions? No? Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve a request in the amount of $125,735.92 from Michigan Department of Natural Resources for Trust Fund Grant or Recreation Passport Grant for the development of barrier-free community playground space in Jackson Mine Park, and also to approve a resolution committing the city to a $31,911.98 forced labor and in-kind materials contribution.
Councilman Waller,
I'll second that.
and Councilman Foley. All those in favor?
Any discussion?
You got it.
I don't have any discussion. I didn't know if anybody else did. Okay.
Yeah, this is just to submit the application. This doesn't commit the city to spend the money. It's just if you accept it, this is the money that you would spend, right? That's how this works. So you still have a chance to say nay if that's what your intention is later, so. This just authorizes the submission of the application. They need the resolution to submit with the application.
Okay, so it's, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, 7.1, unfinished business, number 7, unfinished business, I apologize. 7.1, AMI meeting. Madam Secretary, back up.
This agenda item was postponed at the last regular meeting. Recommendation, install the Honeywell AMI to replace the current Itron AMR system used by the electric and water departments. Do minimal software upgrades to the Itron MVRS meter reading software in order to maintain meter reading capabilities of the AMR meters until the entire fleet can be upgraded to the AMI system. Alternative, replace the current AMR system with another AMR system. Fiscal effects, total cost to implement AMI is $454,000, which will be split between the electric department and the water funds. Brett's not here, he's sick.
That's what I was thinking, I was looking for, I don't see Brett out there. Okay.
It's my understanding this will result in a increase in the rates, right, Ann?
Yeah.
Does that sound right to you?
I think it's
a dollar,
already in the
it's-
fee schedule.
Yeah, it's in the
Yeah,
fee
it's already-
schedule for $1.61, and, yeah, this obviously gives you a great deal of flexibility in reading meters.
Okay, council, direction?
I recommend, do I read the whole thing?
I did.
I recommend, installing the Honeywell AMI to replace the current Itron AMR system used by the electric and water departments. Do minimal software upgrades to the Itron MVRS meters reading system on $5,425 in order to maintain meter reading capabilities of AMR meters until the entire fleet can be upgraded to the AMI system.
I'll support.
Councilman Rowland, any discussion?
Yes, all I had, we did postpone this last month, so we had more of the membership that was able to take and be here, to be able to understand it, a little bit more time to take and absorb it. Some of my comments are still the same as what we had last month as far as we've already budgeted for it, and as Mr. O'Day pointed out as well, we've already put it in the fee schedule to take and plan for this. And when we take a look at those numbers, that's also going to be spaced out over the period of years in order to get the system fully up and operational. Just overall, I still believe that it's this is going to do a great boost as far as a lot of our customers to be able to take and access and get those every 15-minute updates if needed. Similar to resolving some of the situations we've seen in other cities around us where customers suddenly got their bill and found out they had a major water leak they weren't aware of or otherwise. So it's just going to increase our customer service ability. And as we see some of our other systems expand, I just think it's overall a worthwhile project.
Councilman Rowland.
I'm gonna be voting no on this. I'm not opposed to the project as presented. My issue is I don't believe it's been budgeted for already. I know it's not in the capital improvement plan for this, the last one that we approved. I had a meeting with Nate on that, and he confirmed that that's what I just said is true. Which is a slight oversight on his part. Again, I'm all for this. I think it's a better way for us to do what we need to do in light of the fact that we are gonna be losing this vendor. But I think that we can go another year with what we have. I know last month he said, well, we don't know what's gonna happen, this, that, and the other thing, or if this vendor's not gonna, the new vendor coming in, if we don't do this, as piecemeal for the sake of putting it together. We don't know what that vendor's gonna happen down the road either. I still think that there are cheaper alternatives out there that will get us to what we wanna do. And I think we just need the time to be able to do that. And I think by postponing this for another year and adding it to our normal schedule of capital improvement projects and everything, I think that would be the best way to go in this route. So that's where I stand on this.
Anything else? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Against?
Do I need a roll call?
Yeah,
Let's do a roll call.
Yeah.
Because I know the initial cost is small, but the ongoing cost is pretty large. Let's do it.
Councilmember Gladwell,
No.
Councilmember Wallner,
Yes.
Councilmember Karki,
Yes.
Councilmember Flowey,
Yes.
Councilmember Lalonde,
Yes.
Mayor Kangas.
Yes.
Motion passes. 5-1.
7.2, MERS Pension Corrective Action Plan Application. Madam Secretary, back to you.
The City of Negaunee must submit a corrective action plan to the state of Michigan that outlines the future budgeting priorities to adequately fund the MERS pension system. Most of this information is a repeat of the previously submitted waiver request in September of 2019. The state denied that waiver request as the waiver only applied to past actions. The corrective action plan is focused on future actions. Recommendation: acknowledge that the city has enacted a payment in lieu of taxes and a budgeting strategy to adequately fund MERS in the near future. Alternative: do nothing, fiscal effects dependent on yearly budget.
Council, direction?
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules for discussion purposes before a motion.
I'll support it.
My question is, is this something, and I meant to ask Nate this before he left and I failed to do so, so that's on me. But have we done payment in lieu of taxes out of the electric fund for this in the past with the last plan? Do we know that?
We've never done payment in lieu of
That's
taxes.
what I thought. Again, it just seems like we're going back down the old road here, folks, and the electric fund's got the money and that's where everything's coming from, and I'm leery of it. I know we have an issue here with the state. I think we're okay, and the state, not the state, but our auditors even said so. Although we still have to come up with this plan, but I think there are other ways to do this. And taking another 7 to 8% out of the electric fund on an annual basis is just not one of the ways that I'm willing to go forward with this. I want to find out other ways of doing it.
Yes, and I don't disagree with you in that there, and I know the discussion we had was that was put into the corrective action plan. While we sought some of those other avenues, try and see what we could do differently, if we were gonna continue with MERS or otherwise. And, you know, and I do have some of the same trepidations that you do, and also taking a look at what's currently going on with our markets and what is it gonna look like next time around. Cause it seems like every time we start to work on this, the goalpost gets moved again.
That's an awesome, true statement, but the goalpost is being moved by others, not us.
Correct, and that's what I'm saying, is like, it seems as though we start making progress, and state comes back with the MERS system, and the goalpost got moved on us again. 'Cause, you know, you and I have sat through county budget sessions, and it looked like we're doing better, and the last time around, when they came back and said, well, now you're underfunded this much, it was a significant difference.
Yep.
From where I was expecting to open up those budget sheets this last session and be at. And that's where I'm disappointed in how that system is operated, in that it seems like those goalposts keep opening.
My other comment on this too is this new corrective action plan is not a guarantee from the state that they're gonna approve this one either, even if there is a payment of lieu of taxes, so. Cause I'm not so sure we met the other, where is it, Section 5, waiver of application state for the future to be determined indicating prospective information will need to be monitored to go for action. I don't know how we're gonna be able to do that to, Councilman Wallner's concerns regarding the stock market, as well as, how are we gonna monitor that ourselves? Without doing on a monthly, or at least on a quarterly basis. I mean, we have 180 days, my understanding, so this is not
It was
something that.
180 days, Ron, from Councilmember Gladwell, I'm sorry, from October 22nd, when we received it, I believe. So it was March 1st.
Oh, that's 6 months. 180 days is 6 months.
That would be April, wouldn't it? April. It'd be April 20-something,
Okay, sorry,
in that
I
range,
stand
so you
corrected.
do have a little bit of time here.
Is that what it says, from the date of this, letter?
180 days from the
Yes.
date of notification.
Okay.
180 days,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Right, so it'd be April 22nd, plus or minus. a
Okay.
deal with, I guess it'd be 1 day less, because
Yeah.
February's 29.
So my understanding of this is just us basically saying to the state, we're putting a plan forward to deal with this. It's not a final decision or nothing whatsoever, it's just saying that, yep, we realize there's something going on here, correct?
That's my understanding also.
That's kind of the way and so I'm kind of asking for, if I'm reading this correctly.
And I agree with it, and I agree with you, that's exactly what we're doing. But my concern still comes back to the fact that since we're passing a resolution to take 7% out of the electric fund every year, why wouldn't
you're saying, I'm just saying, do I look at this recommendation here on this particular piece as just acknowledging that we have that? And we know that we don't want to do that, and that they're still in the discussions to try and figure out a different way around it. This isn't a resolution to pull those funds right now, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying. That's where I'm,
Cause it's saying acknowledged, it's not saying this is what we're doing, so I think if it said something other than acknowledge, that means we're doing it.
Well, you're right. I can be parsing words here, you're absolutely right, but it's been my experience in this community that when we earmark something and it eventually comes to fruition, 6 months down the road, when I'm no longer here on this council, and others come in the board, hey, you guys passed this in April of 2020, which allowed us to do this, and we're right back to, because someone eventually is gonna start questioning, why are we taking 7% out of the electrical? And they're gonna come back to this meeting, or next month's meeting. I understand what you're saying. It's, at this point, it's nothing more than just sending it to the state, and we don't even know if the state's gonna accept it on, and saying it's a better plan, but we still don't approve it. I get that, but.
and the state's gonna, and that was just put there as almost as low as a placeholder when we did that, 5 months ago or whatever the case may be, while we continue to work on other options. Because the state's not gonna be satisfied with anything we tell them until it's 100% funded, which, as I said, if they keep moving the goalpost on us, are we ever gonna attain that? Is any community gonna be able to attain that as they keep changing it?
Yeah.
We're not alone in this fight. It's
You're
not like
absolutely
Negaunee
right.
is the only
Yeah.
community that's experiencing this same
No,
issue.
in fact, we're in much better shape than most.
Correct, yes, and I'm glad you bring that point up, because it's absolutely true.
Well, and you are in compliance, but you need to make up the deficit. If you were under 60%, then you'd be out of compliance and they'd be standing here yelling at us. And they now want you to figure out what you're gonna do to get from 60 to 100, but, we do have until April. There's a lot of uncertainty out there now in the markets. Maybe you don't wanna make this commitment, because even though it's not 100% commitment, if you read the words right, you can see it's kind of you'll try to do this, and this is what we're gonna try to do, but maybe it makes sense to talk about it on
That's
April
where I
9th. You
would
still
just-
have time to submit it, right, timely. You
I
got
don't-
until April.
That's what I'm reading, yeah.
And it sounds like there's enough questions here from the council that maybe we ought to get the manager to weigh in on this. But it's my understanding that that's how that works, but you've got some heartburn, at least I hear some, from always attacking the electric utility, which is what they tried to do before, and that got rejected. They said, going backwards, but now it's going forwards.
And to the comments that I made, what you just said is if they decide they wanna show up here and start yelling at us,
Well,
there's gonna be a lot more questions coming from this direction towards them as well, so.
yeah, they're not gonna be here, and they're not coming after you, because they have plenty of communities that are out of compliance, and we're
Correct.
not out of compliance, but we do need to figure out a way to get back to fully funded, because it is obviously a huge liability that the city has sitting out there. But with that in mind, maybe it makes sense just to table it.
Without objection, I'd like to make a motion to postpone item 7.2 until next month's meeting.
Okay, all those in favor about postponing till next month, say aye. Aye.
No.
Against?
Councilmember Wallner,
No.
Councilmember Karki,
Yes.
Councilmember Flowey,
Is this to table?
yes.
Yes.
Councilmember Lalonde,
Yes.
Councilmember Gladwell,
Yes.
Mayor Kangas.
Yes.
Okay, number 8, new business. 8.1, 2019 budget adjustments. Madam Secretary, please.
Annually, state law requires the city to adjust its budget so that the actual revenue and expenses do not exceed stated amounts. Attached, you will find a list of adjustments necessary to comply with state budgetary requirements. Analysis. Both revenues and expenditures for the city's 2019 budget have been adjusted to reflect actual financial conditions in compliance with state law. Recommendation, make the attached budget adjustments and any additional adjustments as deemed necessary to bring the 2019 budget into compliance with state law.
Council?
I move that we make the budget adjustments for the, as deemed necessary to bring the 2019 budget into line.
Councilman Blackman, for a second?
Second.
Councilman Malone? Discussion?
This is, we do this all the time. And I actually like what we've actually been doing here on some of these line items that we've gone through here, so I'm fine with this.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. 8.2, Rail Street bids.
Rail Street project includes road work on Rail Street from Gold Street to Division Street in the city of Negaunee. The work will include rehabilitation of roadway, construction of parking stalls, curb and gutter work, traffic control, pavement markings, and slope restoration. The work is expected to take place in 2020 construction season. 7 bids were received on Friday, February 21st. The bid breakdown tabs for Rail Street project are attached for review. Recommendation to accept Overstar Inc. bid of $202,835.75 as they provided the lowest responsible bid of 7 contractors who did the job. Alternative, none recommended, fiscal effects to be paid from the street millage.
Council?
I'll make a motion to accept the Overstar Incorporated bid of $202,835.75 as their lowest responsible bidder of 7 contractors who bid the job.
Councilman Malone, second? Any discussion?
Yeah, who are the other 6 contractors?
They're on your
They're on
bid
the
sheet.
sheet right here.
Sorry.
They're on your bid sheet. There's a whole breakdown.
I see.
I actually enjoy going through these, which is why I asked that these be put into our packets. And it just amazes me every single time we do one of these as to the difference in cost for each individual item. It just, you would think it would be pretty, we should be talking pennies and not thousands of dollars sometimes.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Oh, we need a roll call, we're gonna spend some money here.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, vote.
Councilmember Karki.
Yes.
Councilmember Flowey.
Yes.
Councilmember Lalonde.
Yes.
Councilmember Gladwell.
Yes.
Councilmember Wallner.
Yes.
Mayor Kangas.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
This is gonna be a good project once it's completed.
Rail Street's gonna look sharp. 8.3, first reading ordinance amendment number 1269, home occupations. Background, please.
Fixes and error of exclusion of home occupations in the R2 and RR zones. The planning commission has worded this amendment to include home occupations to R2 and RR zones as originally intended during the last zoning update. Recommendation, approve the first reading and set a public hearing and second reading for April 9th at 7 p.m. at the Negaunee Senior Center.
I'll make a motion that we approve the first reading, and we set a public hearing for April 9th for amendment number 1269, home occupations.
I'll support it.
Yep.
Question, if I may, Your Honor, which kind of relates to this, but it's also for the moment. Can we do the others? Do we have to do them individually, or can we lump them all into one
except for home occupation and fences, because those seem to be kind of separate issues. But that's what we talked about before, because the rest of those ordinances are all just the complete street ordinances. So that's how we're gonna gang them together. But yes, the answer is yes.
Discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? 8.4, first reading ordinance amendment number 1286.07 fences. Secretary?
Due to residential fences being exempt from site plan review, the planning commission has worded this amendment to add a fence permit fee with the required site plan fee review. These changes have been deemed necessary due to residential fences being constructed that have infringed upon established right-of-ways and have damaged critical infrastructure. Recommendation, approve the first reading and set a public hearing and second reading for April 9th at 7 p.m. at the Negaunee Senior Center.
Make the same motion that we approve the first reading and set a public hearing for April 9th, 2020 for ordinance amendment 1286.07.
Second. Councilman Lau. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, Councilman, glad to go through, we lump them all together here, so you can hear my voice a little bit here. If we read them properly. 8.5, first reading ordinance amendment number 1248 subdivision. 8.6, first reading ordinance amendment number 1260.02 zoning definitions. 8.7, first reading ordinance amendment number 1269.05 multifamily residential. 8.8, first reading ordinance amendment number 1280.01 special land use approval standards. 8.9, first reading ordinance amendment number 1281.01 planned unit development standards. And 8.10, first reading ordinance amendment number 1283.06 standards for site plan approval.
These amendments, as provided by the planning commission, address the requirement of the redevelopment-ready communities initiatives, but specifically the complete street component, which if adopted will further our completion of the certified status for RRC. The complete streets resolution was adopted at the previous regular meeting. These amendments fall in with said resolution. Recommendation, approve the first readings and set a public hearing and second readings for April 9th at 7 p.m. at the Negaunee Senior Center.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the first reading and set public hearings for 8.4 through 8.10 on our new business, which encompasses amendments or ordinance amendments 1286.07 fences, 1284 subdivisions, or 1248 subdivisions, 1260.02 zoning definitions, 1269.05 multifamily residential, 1280.01 special land use approval, 1281.01 planned unit development standards, 1283.06 standards for site plan approval, and a second reading for April 9th, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the Negaunee Senior Center. Does that work?
I believe we did 1286
Um,
last time.
I'm sorry, we did. We take that one off there.
You did much better than I did, Jason, good job. You flew right through it. Okay, all those
We
in,
need a second.
I'll second, sorry. Okay. Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. I'm catching up here again. 811, set public hearing, USDA grant application, blue police vehicle.
A public hearing needs to be set for the April regular meeting to secure citizen input regarding an application for a USDA grant requesting funding for new police vehicle. This grant will fund 15% of a new vehicle, with the city responsible for the remaining 85%. Recommendations, set a public hearing for April 9th at 7 PM in the Negaunee Senior Center.
I make a motion, to recommend to set a public hearing April 9th at 7 PM.
Motion made Ron, second. Support. Councilman Gladwell. Discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Let's see, 8.12, UPOS, correct, Dawn?
Yes. I don't ever recall doing an agreement with UPOS in the past. Is there a reason why we're doing one now?
I thought we did have one. We didn't have one before?
No, but I thought it was because, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the veterinarian is no longer taking them or something.
Oh.
I don't quote me on that one though. But, no, I've never seen a UPOS agreement before.
I don't, honestly, I just don't see the need for it. I mean, the amount of animals that our officers will be transporting down there are gonna be far and few between. And the second reason is UPAWS, in my opinion and my understanding, is supposed to be self-supporting. And this is really nothing more than just an attempt on their part to get municipalities and others possibly to help fund their organization.
This was brought to staff by the previous chief and the current chief requesting this. UPOS must have came to them, but I believe that they're saying we need that.
I'll be honest, I don't know, I have enough information to make an informed vote on this right now, so again, I'd like to postpone this one to the to the April meeting, and the city manager can give us all information on this, and I can sit down with him as well. I was not aware that the current and former police chiefs had discussions, so maybe there obviously is more work that they do regarding that. I'm sure there would, otherwise they wouldn't have had those discussions, but I'd like to know what it was and have those numbers in there too, so.
Are you making that as a motion?
Yes.
I'll support that.
So I guess for sake of discussion,
Well, my understanding is that the police chief or the police department has been using UPAWS anyway, right?
I believe so,
For stray
yeah.
animals when they don't have anywhere else to go.
And the vet in Ishpeming.
And UPAWS is requesting this before they'll take any more animals, so that's why this is in front of us. But I think we've always been paying for those services, because otherwise what do you do with the animals if you get them? Now, how many do you get? I estimate that, I think it's less than 10 a year. So it's not a huge number.
and
Haven't paid.
We've never,
We've
I
never-
don't know why we
I
would
can
have
say
paid to
that, we
bring
have not.
anything.
I do the bills and I've never paid
You've never
UPOS,
paid
and I've
UPOS,
never
okay.
paid the vet, so that's why I'm a little
Oh, I
confused
gotcha.
as well, so.
Well, if there's those questions, then let's, we can certainly wait. You know, I mean, your police chief certainly has emergency powers. If he needs to take an animal somewhere, he can take it
Would
somewhere.
that show up as a line item, cause I haven't seen that before when I
That-
looked at our budget.
It's not a line item because we've never paid.
Yeah.
I think they've used them before, but
Yeah.
UPAWS was never getting any money, so maybe to Mr. Gladwell's point, you know, this might be part of their new strategy to get some extra funds.
And I recently went with ride along with one of our officers, and one of his many assignments that day was actually there was a couple of cats that were left in an apartment building, and the police, it was reported to the police, and then it was thrown in the officer's lap, like, okay, deal with it. And I remember as he made a phone call to UPOS to, strategy, how to catch the animals type of thing, and bring them there. So I guess I didn't put two and two together at that moment, until we started talking about it, and it jogged my memory, it's like, oh yeah, I just remember hearing about that. So, but as for a specific line item or money going toward it, you're together until you started speaking.
And just to, not to belabor the point here too, but, you know, I'm looking at these fees, and we're talking fees for euthanasia of an animal, and rabies, and boarding of the animal, and things like that. It's like, you know, and that's, you know, $20 per day, and we don't, you know, those costs can add up. I get it. I would much rather, if we're gonna fund anything with UPAws, I'd rather fund an extraction team of some sort, so that those phone calls, to your point that you just made, could be made to them, say, come to this address, you have 2 cats, now it's your problem. And take that off of our plate, because they don't need to be, in my opinion, shouldn't have to be dealing all that time when they could be doing other police work. So there's obviously a lot more information that we need to get made to give us, and I'd like to just wait until next week and talk further about it.
And I agree with, and to your point too, when you look at the fee schedule, that's where, you know, we'll get the input from Nate as well as, you know, if the chief wants to come in, absolutely. But UPAws themselves, you know, you take a look at this, and looking at like the head examination you brought up, actual costs incurred by UPAws is charged by a veterinarian or any other participating agency, and those can vary greatly. You know, just take a look at, you know, with my own pets at one point in time, one charged the gold standard, and the other one was, either way. You know, but how are we supposed to know who that is? And we look at the $19.50 per animal per day, the boarding and quarantine. You know, whose discretion is that at?
Excellent points.
To postpone till April.
Okay, so call for a vote for postponing till April. So all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Against? Good, that's a good catch. That's a good catch, Okay, number 9, consent agenda. 9.1 minutes, February 13th, 2020, regular minutes, March 2nd, 2020, special minutes. 9.2, claims and accounts. 9.3, revenue expenditure reports, trial balances. 9.4, appointments to board and commissions. Council?
Move that we approve the consent agenda as presented, or as read, excuse me.
Second? Councilman Law? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, number 10, public comment. Public comment. Okay, closes public comment. Council committees.
I guess the only thing I have is the Marchand board. At our most recent meeting, one of the things I made the city manager as well as Mr. Nelson aware that they're actually looking at changing some of their routing a little bit and creating a dedicated Negaunee route. So they're still in the process of doing the research on that to see the feasibility. They expressed interest in getting together and to try and look a little bit closer, and I referred them over to the city manager as well as Mr. Nelson to take a little more time to take a look at our plan and some of the projects we have going on. And we just approved Rail Street, some of those sorts of things, and where our long range plans are, where we'd like to see bus stops and otherwise. So that is at least something that's in the works. The way it stands right now, the current run goes all the way up. It passes through Negaunee, goes up through Ishpeming, then comes back through Negaunee again. So those that are waiting for a bus in Negaunee could be waiting in upwards of 45 minutes to an hour if that bus leaves back around. So that's where if we created a dedicated loop that would then run back down to Marquette, it'd be a little bit different. So.
Any follow up on the shelter thing you brought up to us last month?
But that's myself as well as another member of the board have brought that up for their municipality. So that's that'll be ongoing, and that'll be part of that conversation as well. Like I said, as we look at some of our community improvements we're doing, looking at where we could potentially have hard stands or businesses that may be looking to cooperate with things and kind of adopt a bus stop in a way.
Excuse me. council members, let's do it differently tonight. Councilman Karki, how do you feel?
I'll keep it kind of short. I'm not really feeling the best today. I'd like to say, get well soon to Mr. Dean Grasso. You guys heard? I seen him today, and he's doing better. So hopefully he continues the right steps. It's good to be back and see some of the snow disappearing. And then also some things are coming up as the snow melts. Things, garbage and whatnot, So I try to do a little bit in front of my house there, but other than that, that's about it. That's all I got.
Councilman Chloe?
Nothing.
Councilman Dana?
Yeah, the snow is melting. I've discovered spots where my sons have not picked up after the dog. The current COVID-19 virus going on, I work at Northern, and we're just referring people to the CDC or Marquette County Health Department if they have concerns, because that's the most up-to-date and accurate information. And to not panic and just practice social distancing. So, no shaking hands. Yeah, so we're a little concerned about it, but yeah.
Councilman Rattler?
Along those lines, NITs are canceled this weekend and next weekend, because of that virus, amongst all the other stuff that, you all probably aware of. Councilman Karki's point, the city crew, city department, DPW, been doing a very good job, keeping up with the streets. I know there's been quite a few areas with this snow melt where you have major flooding. One of them right in front of my house. They've been doing a great job in getting the bucket loader out there, removing the snow, removing the ice around the sewers in that area so that it'll drain and not cause any issues. There's quite a few places in the city where that happens on an annual basis. So they've done a really good job of keeping up with that this year. So that just goes to show that the database that they're keeping is working. And I think they just started implementing that here about 3 years ago, where issues and concerns that they've had throughout the city were always basically put on notepads or somebody's notes. And now they have a big instant computer type thing. Major things they've always had on the computer, but these little things like pop up on occasion, they're on top of it now, and it's showing. And I'm getting lots of comments also from the constituents out there in regards to their snow removal, specifically in the downtown area, and how well that's been going, and how appreciative they are of the fact that we're taking pride in our city, is basically the words that they're using. So it's nice to hear that stuff. So that's it.
Councilman Wall?
I think everybody's pretty much covered most of it. The only thing I am going to touch on, and this is not a coronavirus type of scare sort of thing, but what I've had conversations in the past with the city manager, and I'd like to at least apprise some of the others that I'd like to see going forward what our actual emergency management plan is. Taking a look at that, one of the things I've done through the military is something called DISCA operations, which is Defense Support of Civil Authorities. And seeing the governor yesterday making the public announcement regarding a state of emergency and otherwise, I fully see them doing a reaction very similar to what happened with the Flint water crisis. For those of us that were here, the lead testing that went on and some of the other knee-jerk reactions, I can see the state coming after this kind of starts to calm down and resolve, and asking each municipality what our emergency management plans are. So I'd really like to maybe take a look at that, and some of that has basically succession of authority and things of that nature. Heaven forbid, if we were to be in a pandemic scenario, and we have some of that established right now, either formally or informally, but looking at who's the next person in charge, and also how do we take and speak with our county emergency management agencies, and how do we talk to the Joint Operations Center down in Lansing if something were to happen, not only for Corona, but any other sort of emergency. So it's something as we're kind of going forward, and he's the second city manager I brought to this, their attention. I'd just like to know what our emergency management plan is. Exactly.
I had a interesting text from my wife earlier about, we were planning on going to Myrtle Beach, next month. So she kind of texted me about, concerns about going down there. And I'm like, as my heart dropped into my stomach, thinking, it's like, I'm gonna lose out all this golfing and such. But but just with that being said, it's just like, we're planning on making an adult decision on it and, take care of ourselves and proper, hygiene, all that type of stuff. That's what we all do, should all be doing on an everyday basis anyway. You should have to do something like this to all of a sudden say, geez, we should be doing this. It should be an everyday thing. But also just the thought of being, quarantined somewhere. So just with that thought, seeing also Milo's open seat there, hope he doesn't get stuck quarantined in Florida. But then again, it's probably the worst places you could be. So, so like I say, I'm not making a light of the instance, but just a few things that kind of popped into my mind. In other words, good hygiene, wash your hands, and refrain from handshaking. That's going to bother me a bit, but I'll deal with it. So, pretty much that's all I got. So, Mr. Attorney.
I don't have anything else.
Okay.
Move that we adjourn.
Okay, a second.
Support.
Mr. Ballmer, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.